excited.
Yes.
I'm excited for all of this. Let me get people in. I'm still trying to figure out how people are like how this can be automated, but I have to manually let people in all the time,
Right.
uh, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but it's just we'll see.
I'm going to mute my audio for just a minute.
Okay. Uh, uh, uh. All right. Okay. Well, we have a whole bunch of people coming in. I'm gonna let people stack up and then like hit admit all together. Hi everybody, welcome. The early bird eats the worm people are here. Everyone. Who even came up with that? Early bird gets. Who came up with that?
I don't know. It seems like
No.
a very American thing, doesn't it?
But who? Why would worm be something that people would go for? These are the questions you contemplate on once your immigration is sorted.
It's so true. It's like American idioms are so strange.
So the last job in which I was, there's this lady who was a big fan of non-violent communication.
Mhm.
So any type of communication that says, look, boots to the ground, like very military-ish, uh, fire across all barrels, like anything that's violent, she was very, very much against. So, and I even got a book about that nonviolent communication. Yet to read it, but I just gloat over the fact that I have it.
I mean, it's a great concept, actually.
Right? Yeah, it didn't occur to me. All right. Hi, Advait, Anjali, welcome. Bhavna, Chaitanya, Deep. I travel. Who is I travel? What's your name? I travel. Jayant, Kalyani, Kedar, Mary, of course. Momita, Nishan, Pawan, two Pawans. Pujita, Prithvish, Priyanka, Ram, Rupa, Saranga, Raja, Sharmila, what's up? Srinath, Soumya, Swapnil, two Swapnils. Venkat and Vikram, welcome, folks. We have a whole bunch of people who signed up today. So this is going to be an interesting webinar.
Well, we've got a lot to cover.
We've got a lot. This is going to be one of those. I feel like, the way I've promoted this, it seems like I'm going to do like an expose on lawyers. Which,
Oh my God. There is so much to say.
yeah, there's so much. And I wanted a lawyer to say it. So I'm really glad that you're here. Kevin, what's up?
Hi, Kevin.
Hi, good morning, you guys. I saw Mary's going to be on here and Aditi, so I'm like, I gotta be there. So
You gotta be here. I
great.
see you. I see you being social. I see you going to IRL events. We are
Yeah,
virtual.
I mean, I'm just trying to meet and get to know this amazing client base. So
Yes.
So
Okay.
Kevin and I have actually met in real life.
Is that right? You guys have met?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, Mary was like out in the Bay Area, and it was just a great opportunity. We were in a session that Atal was doing, and they had pitches. I mean, it's just really amazing hearing all these great things that people are doing, and I didn't know that Mary was the star that she is when I met her. So
Listen, she
Well,
is a star.
likewise.
She's the OG. What do you mean? She is the OG.
That's the she doesn't she plays it off. It's like hey.
That's so funny. Well, I was in this like room full of entrepreneurs, and I sat down next to Kevin because he looked like a nice person, and he goes, "I'm an immigration lawyer," and I'm like, "What?"
That's great.
So there we
My
go.
potential clients have the same reaction. Like, really?
You're not a
You don't act
myth.
like a lawyer.
You're just not a hologram. What do you mean? No, I have Kevin, do not take it away from me because I have a banger of an intro for Mary, which I do want to.
Yeah,
I reserve the right to mention those words to people, but I do want to invite everybody, folks. Welcome. We have a packed house today. 146 people signed up, and 40% show up, and only 10% stay till the end. But I can tell you the chances of you getting your EB1 approved is directly proportional to the attention that you'll pay in this call and the length till which you will stay on this call. So this is not me. I don't make the fact. I don't make this up. These are just facts. I'm kidding. But wouldn't that be nice? All right, folks. I am gonna go ahead and introduce Mary to you. Every minute of this call counts, and I am the least important person in this call because you need to listen to Mary. Mary Kearney or Carney? That's a great place for me to.
Kearney, that rhymes with attorney.
Kearney the attorney. Stop. Oh my gosh. That's great. I do want to introduce Mary to you, but before that, a few housekeeping rules. You're welcome to keep your cameras on, but you are encouraged to keep your mics off because this call is being recorded and it's going to be available for public consumption. So, having said that, if you want to keep your cameras on, you're welcome to. But if you want it off, we completely get it. From 12:05, well, 12:06 to 12:35, Mary is going to share what I consider absolute golden nuggets of information with you. And from 12:35 to 1 o'clock, you will have your opportunity to ask Mary questions. And what I would encourage you to do is not ask questions that are hyper specific to your profile because that goes into legal consultation. You want to keep it on the education level. You want to keep it broad strokes. So that's what I would encourage you to do. And what would be beneficial for you is to ask questions that follow up on the information that Mary is going to share in the first 25 minutes. All right. So now about Mary. Mary Kearney is the attorney, is a retired immigration attorney with over 25 years of practice as an extraordinary ability specialist. Currently owner of VisaBuilder, providing tools and courses to construct your own extraordinary ability portfolio. Past founder of two immigration law firms specializing in corporate immigration law and sports immigration, respectively. 5 years of training as a Wall Street litigator, passionate about providing EB1A resources for, get this, self-advocacy directly to applicants. So one of the very rare immigration attorney unicorns who wants you to take charge so that you can self-file even if you feel enough. With that, I'm going to give it off to Mary. Thank you so much for investing 25 minutes of your time educating us and providing this information, which I wish personally I had when I was going through my EB1. So thank you so much, Mary.
Thank you so much, Aditi. This is a topic that I am really passionate about. Getting the right lawyer is so important. Avoiding the wrong lawyer is even more important. And I have a kind of a unique perspective on this because not only do I talk to a lot of people who have had wonderful lawyer experiences and absolutely horrific lawyer experiences, but having been the lawyer on the other side of this transaction, I can tell you what it looks like from what you might call the law firm perspective. And the more the client understands about the lawyers, their incentives, their workloads, their time management, the better result you will get working with the lawyer. So I have a little slideshow that goes along with this talk. Is this a good time to pull up the slides?
Yep, we can see your slides, Mary.
Okay, awesome.
But it's on
So,
6. you want to probably go to slide 1.
It's a little slow. All right. On a personal note, I just have to say this is my first webinar and my first slideshow, so bear with me. Okay, so here's first slide is my introduction, which Aditi has so kindly shared with you. These are all my bona fides that we've already talked about. And jumping right into our topic, let's say that you're starting on your EB1A journey. And you figure that at some point you might need a lawyer. Let's say that you're midway through building your portfolio and you really need some guidance from someone who knows what they're doing. Where do you start? How do you even begin looking for a lawyer? It's a really scary topic. And most people have indeed heard horror stories from their friends about, like, okay, the lawyer took all my money and never did anything. The lawyer took all my money and filed my case and it was really awful and it was denied. I hired a lawyer, they never called me back. I'm sure that we've all heard these stories. They're all true. I am sorry to say. So let's just do a kind of a little review of where do you start? So let's take a look at what you might call the market or the industry. There are, in the American Immigration Lawyers Association, which all reputable attorneys will belong to. It's a private bar association for immigration lawyers. There are 14,000 members of Immigration Lawyers Association. So how do you find your person? All of those lawyers are organized in some way into law firms. And it's helpful to understand, like, where your lawyer's coming from in terms of how they make a living. An immigration law firm is all about volume, okay? The more cases the lawyer takes in, the more money they make. And that's just kind of, it's a very simple economic model. So it's a volume business. The more cases you take in, the more money you make. And it creates some perverse incentives for these attorneys. It creates an incentive for them, for example, to take more cases than they might have capacity for at the moment. You know, they might have staffing at a certain level, and then a couple of people quit and they have all these cases. What are they going to do? It's a hard problem. It also creates a perverse incentive for lawyers to maybe file the case before it's quite ready, shall we say. And this can create some really bad outcomes. So it's just kind of unavoidable that the incentives of making a living as an immigration lawyer are not necessarily aligned with those of the client. I have to say, most of my friends in the immigration bar, well, all my friends, are reputable and really good at their jobs, and they don't do either of those things. They don't intentionally take on too many cases, and they don't intentionally file bad cases. But the incentives are there, and it can be kind of a challenge. Now, when you're starting your research on where do I find my lawyer, there's certain patterns in law firms that you want to look for. A lot of law firms are generalists. They do everything. You know, they do family-based, they do asylum, they do business cases, they do a lot of H-1Bs. That's probably your typical immigration law firm. That's not really the firm that you want when you're specifically trying to do an EB1A. Your company's immigration law firm. Unless that's your only route to an EB1A, I don't recommend using your company's firm. They're set up to do high volume corporate practice, and it's just they're not EB1A specialists, right? There's a third kind of firm that's kind of, oh yes, we can totally do your EB1A. We'll be happy to do it before they even look at your credentials. That'll be $5,000 upfront and $5,000 when we file. They just kind of give off that air of sleaze. And if you get that intuition about a firm, pay attention to it. They will take the money and run. And they might file your case, but it probably will not turn out too well. Now, excuse me, getting into like more of the area that we want to focus on is the super specialized EB1A law firm. I'm sure that you've seen on LinkedIn and various socials that there's many law firms now, thankfully, that do specialize in O1, EB1A, national interest waivers. They don't pretend to do the whole spectrum of immigration law cases. They just focus specifically on EB1A type cases, cases that require a little bit more time and effort to prepare and that are very personalized. And within that genre, it's possible for a practitioner who does EB1As for a living to become like really popular and get overwhelmed, to just basically have their popularity overtake their staffing and their capacity. And there's no way to know whether that's happening to your lawyer. So I say that the last two of those bullet points are kind of interconnected. It just happens. So it's a thing to look out for. The last thing I wanted to point out in this field guide section is this is not a place to economize. I would budget about $20,000 over the course of 2 to 5 years to get your EB1A completed. It's a lot of money. I'm including filing fees, attorney's fees, and I'm also including the likelihood that you might have to do a do-over, either on your attorney or with USCIS if you happen to get an RFE or a denial. Basically, never give up. Okay, if you're convinced that your case is good and that you have a shot at it, it's like a denial is not the end. A denial is giving you information about what you should do next. And the same is true of attorneys. If you need to pull the plug, start over. It's painful, but yikes. There's a lot of questions coming in, so why don't we get to those?
We can, folks, you can ask the questions and keep it in the chat, and when the time comes for Q&A, I'm going to go through them.
Okay, so let's jump right into the nitty-gritty of how you do your research. This is an online project, and people who like online research are going to really enjoy this. So we've already established to look for EB1A specialists, not for like generalist immigration law firms. It's also really important to look for firms that hold themselves out as having experience in your industry. Most of the time, I think that for most people on this call, it will be some version of a tech industry occupation, not always, but what you don't want is an EB1A firm that specializes, for example, in athletes or in entertainment. A business firm should be fine, but if you're going to like an LA Hollywood entertainment lawyer who does EB1As, that's a completely different thing, and they won't have a clue what you do. So what you want is a firm that's really experienced in translating tech concepts into something the immigration officer can understand. That's a really specialized skill. And so it's important to look for attorneys or firms that work in industry and specifically in tech, as opposed to like a completely unrelated EB1A specialty. When you're looking at the specific attorney, when you're looking at the law firm, look at how they hold themselves out to the public. Look at their website, look at their LinkedIn profile, look at their socials. First of all, does their website pass the lab test, right? Does it look like it was last touched in 2005? Okay. What about their LinkedIn profile? Do they have a photo, right? Do they look professional? It's like whatever you see on their website and whatever they're holding out to the public, that is the work product that you will get on your EB1A. So if you see carelessness, if you see misspellings, it's a sign, you know? It's like attention to detail in EB1A is really important. And you can tell a lot about your attorney by how they hold themselves out to the public. Many attorneys will have a reputation going around in your community. You know, you probably know some other people who are thinking about EB1A or who have done it, some people in your company or maybe your friends. And everybody's got an opinion. I would listen to those. It's not a veto necessarily, but I would listen to people's experiences with those attorneys. It's, you know, it's just a good question to ask your friends and colleagues. A really important step, please don't skip this step. It's so easy to do. Go on the website of the American Immigration Lawyers Association and make sure that person is a member. Every reputable immigration attorney will be an AILA member. That's how we find out what we find out about what's going on at the service. So that's the one thing. The second thing is check the website of the bar that the person's admitted to. And since immigration law is a nationwide practice, it could be any state bar, but they should state their bar affiliation on their website. Go check that state bar and look up that person's name. Make sure they don't have any disciplinary actions. Seriously, you'd be surprised. It's just that is like vetting 101. Just to make it, you're basically checking for wants and warrants, okay? So once you've narrowed it down to your short list, set up a consultation with like your favorite ones and pay for it if you have to. This is a part of your EB1A investment. It's really important to choose wisely, and it's worth $400 or $500 just to check that person out. Like I said, it's not really the place to economize. General qualities to look for in an attorney. It's not what you might think. You know, it's not a person who says, yes, I can get your case approved, because honestly, they don't know. They have to look at your credentials. The most important thing is that they take an interest in you personally. They really show like that they see you as a person. Are they curious about what you do for a living? Are they curious about what's cool about your job and your accomplishments, right? Do they ask you like specific detailed questions about your achievements? Curiosity, I think, is the most important quality in an EB1A attorney. You don't want the attorney who's like in the consultation and like their eyes are glazing over, or they look like they don't remember your actual name, you know? You also want to see like if they're giving you honest, specific, detailed feedback about the credentials that you've given them, about your readiness for EB1A. My feeling about EB1A is that there's no unqualified person, okay? There's only a portfolio that's not quite ready yet. Don't ever let an attorney say, oh, you don't qualify. Well, they don't know, right? Because you might not be qualified yet, but like that doesn't mean that you're not well on the road. You know, anywhere on the spectrum from just starting out, I'm a student, I'm planning ahead, to I'm mid-career, to I'm really close to filing. Okay? Any one of those places are legitimate places to start for an EB1A with an attorney. And the best ones will work with you. I just have one more thing to say about researching that's not really in the bullet points, but a lot of people have had consultations with firms that specialize in academic and researcher occupations. I'm not naming names, I'm sure we know who we're all talking about here, but a lot of people have come away from those consultations very discouraged because they don't meet the academic researcher qualifications for EB1A. First of all, that's not your firm, unless you're a researcher. And second of all, that firm has like a really narrow type of case that they take. Even among researchers, they only take a certain type of case. So I would highly recommend against using an academic researcher type firm. I mean, you know, they have their method, they have their system, they have their specific work product. And if you don't fit in that, then they won't take you. But I wouldn't even go there. So just a little heads up about that. Okay, now we're in the interview. Let's ask them some questions. Okay, this is like in the PDF that will be available to you after the call. And so we don't have to go into detail on these, but we can just go through them really quickly. When you're having a consultation with a lawyer, you're interviewing them. I mean, I know that you want to get information about how strong your case is and what you should work to build, but really what you're doing here is you're trying to figure out is this person right for me? And so it's important to focus on asking them a lot of questions about them as opposed to asking them a lot of questions about you, right? So I would ask them some really specific things. I would ask them what percentage of their caseload is EB1A, and what other kinds of cases they do besides EB1A. I would ask them how many EB1As have they filed this year? How many have they filed over the course of their career or over the life of their law firm? So this tells you, like, are they serious about this EB1A thing, right? What's their success rate on their EB1As, both recently and over the course of their career or their law firm, which, if you get an honest answer about this, can give you some information about whether they're currently well-staffed or understaffed, right? If there's been, you know, a decline recently in like their levels of approval. Sometimes that's USCIS and there's nothing they can do about it, but sometimes it means that they're struggling a little bit. I would ask them about RFEs. There's no reason for a law firm to be defensive about RFEs. Just as often as it's attorney error, it's probably more often service error. I would ask them about RFEs, what their percentage is and whether they get approvals or denials, just to gauge their attitude about it, you know, whether they get defensive about it. They really shouldn't. I would ask them if they have, I mean, I'd ask them specifically if they have in-depth expertise in your occupation, right? And if they specialize in a particular industry or sector, I'd ask them for some examples of business niches that they've filed cases in. Just, you know, to get an idea of what kinds of cases they do. You know, are there niches like different variations of software engineers, or are they kind of all over the map? I'd be curious about that, you know? I'd ask really super specific questions about who's going to be working on your case. It's not going to be the attorney. They don't have time. I mean, we went into the economics of the volume, and they just cannot do it all. And so it's really important to know, like, who are you going to be working with? How much experience do they have in immigration law, and specifically in preparing EB1As? What percentage of their caseload is EB1As? And what other kinds of cases do they do? As you can see, these are like really specific questions. I'd ask them, like, if you hire them, what's their workflow? How do you guys work together? I mean, do you have emails? Do you have phone calls? Do you have Zoom calls? Do you have a Slack channel? What's their preferred method of like going back and forth with you? Because EB1A is like a really interactive kind of case. In the best case scenario, you will have a lot of interaction with the person preparing your case. So those are some questions that I would go into, like with the attorney in the consultation. It's really important, I think. Do you like this person? Never ever hire a person you don't like. You know, if you spend half an hour or an hour with them, chatting with them about how they're going to do things, if you got a bad feeling about this, or you just don't enjoy their company, just move on. Life's too short, and you don't want to pay all that money to somebody that you don't care for, you know? So let's say that your search has been successful. You picked an attorney, you really like them, you really like their firm, you feel like they have a deep bench of talent, and that you're going to be working with someone who you feel is really qualified to do your case. Let's say that you have an assigned person and that you actually have their name. The firm is totally on board with working with you to like help you like interactively build your portfolio. They're giving you really good specific advice about, okay, you have to like beef up your critical role here. You need to go do like 3 judging events there. And just basically working with you interactively to build a really strong portfolio. What are like the mechanics of working with that person? I'd say that the most important priority here is for you to be proactive. Set a timeline for when you would like your case to be filed. Set up a specific communication channel that you know that person is available on. For example, if you like email, but they like Slack, I would just suck it up and go do the Slack, because that's where they're going to be. That's where they're going to be most responsive. And again, like most important factor, I think, in working with your attorney is being proactive, not only in building your case and your evidence under their guidance, but contact you. The first complaint anyone has about their lawyer is, my lawyer never calls me back. Okay, it's just a problem. I mean, even in the best firms, it's just a problem. And mostly it's just a volume problem for them. It's like they're not actually ignoring you. They're not actually neglecting your case. They're just overwhelmed. Immigration law is tough. It's like you file a really strong case, it comes back with the RFE, all of a sudden you've got to do the case all over again. You know, and try to figure out what USCIS is looking for when they didn't tell you. So your person that you're working with is almost certain to be overwhelmed. Please don't take it personally. Persist, persist. Be nice about it, but persist, persist. It's a lot of work, and I'm sorry that that's true, but it's the best way to get what you want. Hopefully you did pick a good firm. It'll all work out. But sometimes it doesn't. So I guess my last piece of advice here on this little call is how to troubleshoot your relationship with your attorney when things go wrong. So these are some common problems, probably the most frequent complaints that people get about their lawyer. My lawyer won't call me back. Oh my God, how many times have we all heard this? The answer is persist, persist, persist. It's like, just keep trying. If you're really having trouble, go up the chain. Go back to the senior person who did your intake at the very beginning and persist, persist, persist with them. It's unfortunate that you have to do this, but it's the best way to get what you want, which is really what I'm all about, is work within the system that you have to get the result that you want. My lawyer isn't telling me what I need to do next. This is pretty common, where the lawyer just hands you the list of the 8 extraordinary ability factors and says, okay, go get some evidence. Well, you need guidance, right? And so I think in this situation, you just need to ask them very specific questions. What kind of judging event, right? What exactly do you need in the way of documentation of my critical role? Just again, being proactive, being specific. The third one, I get in touch with my lawyer or the paralegal. They act like they don't even remember which case I am. Oh, this is a bad sign. This means that they're so overwhelmed or so indifferent that it might be a sign that you might want to think that this might not be working. I test this a couple of times just to make sure they're not having a terrible day, but that's a very bad sign. Fourth thing, my lawyer isn't including evidence I want to present. If you otherwise trust your attorney, there might be a really good strategic reason why they're not including it. It might be something that makes you look small, look not EB1A caliber. It might be that they just don't think it qualifies. So, like I said, if you don't trust your attorney, then that's a sign that it might be time to start over. But if you do, they should be able to explain to you really specifically why there's evidence that they don't want to include. Last one, my lawyer seems to know less about EB1A than I do. Oh boy, danger, danger, danger sign. It's a sign that you've been assigned to a very inexperienced paralegal. And it's maybe you can get reassigned, but this is a serious red flag that maybe it's time to back out of this and start over. If you don't get a call back within 4 to 6 weeks, if you really think that your case is not progressing, if you really feel that the person you've been assigned to is clueless about what you do, if you have a bad feeling about the whole thing, pull the plug and start over. Just tell them that you are withdrawing representation and go do the whole thing again. I'm sorry, I know it's painful, but some costs can be really damaging. At some point it's time to pull the plug. So please don't be afraid to do that. It's just part of your investment. I guess in conclusion, my biggest takeaways are chance favors the prepared mind. Be prepared, do your research, and you'll always get the best outcome the more initiative you take to get your case successfully prepared. So Anyway, I hope this has been helpful, and I'm happy to take questions about any of this. We've gone over a lot of things in a short time. So thank you so much for sticking with me here.
Thank you, Mary. This has been incredibly helpful. As you can see through the chat, a lot of us learn this through experience. Hindsight is always 2020, and my goal in building this community, helping folks through EB1, has always been to help you get less burned by the system. Even if it's 10% less burned, the job is well done.
Yes.
Yeah, so thank you again, Mary, for all of those pointers. So here's what we're going to do. It's 12:39. Mary, is it okay if we just slot out a half hour? So is it cool if we do a hard stop at 1:10 p.m.? Is that good? So people have a half hour? Awesome. Okay, great. Folks, we are going to take one question per person. So I know Akshay has already raised his hand. For folks who have included their question in the chat, please raise your hand and ask those questions yourself. Not 1A, 1B, 1C, just one question. And if we have time, we'll circle back to you. Akshay, go for it.
Thank you, Aditi and Mary, for arranging this insightful session. So my question is, what advice and or strategy would you give to a mechanical engineer with 6 years of work experience looking to apply for O1 in new administration?
So I will paraphrase the questions because the mic setup is a little tricky. So Mary, his question is, what words of advice would you give a mechanical engineer applying for O1 under the new administration?
My advice would be probably not that different than it would be applying under the old administration. USCIS is somewhat independent of administrations. Obviously, they will be influenced by policymakers, but they pretty much do their own thing. For mechanical engineering specialties, I think the most important thing that you can do is explain what you do in plain English. Take your really cool, amazing, stuff that you build and write a children's book about it. That is the level your examiner will be understanding it at. And the better you can do that and make a compelling story out of it, the better you will do in terms of your outcome.
Absolutely. Balaji, go for it.
I have a question regarding the consultation. So initially we start with uploading our profile, and is it a normal expectation that the attorney reviews it and gives you a honest feedback about the prospectives and your strengths and then where you need to work on in the first consultation? And then also most of the time you'll be working with the paralegal. Can I request who will be the assigned paralegal? Can I also have a conversation with that assigned paralegal as a part of consultation?
So Mary, Balaji's question is, when you go in for a lawyer consultation, Mary, are you able to hear me? I think so. Mary?
Yes.
Okay, great. So Balaji's question was, when you walk into a consultation, how do you ensure that the lawyer has indeed taken a look at your profile and is providing meaningful feedback? Like, how do you check for that validity? And also, given that we are going to work with a paralegal, 90%, 95% of the cases, how do we validate the paralegal's expertise? Like, is it a fair ask to the lawyer to interview the paralegal as you're interviewing the lawyer themselves?
Absolutely, you can always ask. I mean, you can specifically request that person be present. It's likely, however, that the attorney won't know which of their staff will get your case until after the consultation, because the consultation will tell the lawyer basically who you are and what kind of work you do. And they might have different internal assignments depending on what your occupation is. As to whether the lawyer should have reviewed your profile first that you've uploaded? Absolutely. And this is one of the tells. I mean, this is one of the ways that you gauge whether you want to hire this person, is whether they looked at your stuff first, right? Are they interested? I mean, are they interested enough that they actually looked at your profile before they sat down in the meeting with you? I would absolutely use that as a screening tool.
Right. Would you also consider, Mary, like when you're looking up these law firms, a lot of them have, most of them, at least the credible ones, have LinkedIn pages. So if you go to their law firm page, you'll be able to see people who work at the law firm, and they're going to identify themselves as immigration paralegals. Nothing is stopping you from doing a whole LinkedIn, I don't want to use the word stalking, but like deep dive into their profiles and look at, you know, how competent they are and
I would absolutely do that, and I would call it research.
Yeah.
You are the customer. You are paying. So you're interviewing and hiring them, not the other way around.
Right. Nidhi, go for it.
Thank you, Aditi. Hi, Mary. So my question is, so I was asked to file for NIW first, and saying that the priority dates were not current, so that we can first file NIW and then go for EB1A when the dates were current. But I'm not sure if this is true or if this is just a way to like make more money for them. Can we do this?
So her question is, and this is a very common suggestion that lawyers have started to provide or have been providing, at least to folks who are born in India, where you want to apply for EB1, but it looks like a more winning strategy could be apply for NIW and then EB1. So Nidhi's doubt is it just a money-making strategy, or is there truth to the statement?
I think it's actually kind of a cool strategy. Like, if it works, you know, because if your NIW is approved relatively quickly, then you get an earlier priority date that you can then use later for your EB1A. And yeah, it could be a money grab for sure. My current concern about this strategy, although I think it's generally a really cool and sound strategy, is that NIWs are having some issues at USCIS right now. The denial rate is very high. And they're taking a long time to adjudicate even at premium. So, you know, there's a lot of RFEs in premium right now. So the strategy might not work as planned. And I don't know. I have really no recommendation about that. I think it's sound and not a ripoff. But you could end up like with a denial, and it could just end up costing you more, you know?
Yeah. Thanks.
Pavan, go for it. Pavan Kumar. Pavan. All right, moving on. Swapnil Jain.
Hey, thanks so much for arranging this call. And sorry, I mean, I haven't started my EB1 process yet. So just I have a question. It's like I have 17 years of experience, and how do I go with it? And like, see, in my profile, I don't have any kind of a research thing. I do have project management. So how to build a profile, and like how to find a attorney or lawyer, like, I mean, who can help me on the complete process, and how do I identify this, who am I taking is the right one, and things are going in the right direction.
Okay. Mary, do you want me to paraphrase that question?
As I understand it, the question was, excuse me, if you're just starting out on your EB1A journey, how do you find someone to guide you? And how do you find the attorney who's willing to work with you in that time frame? Is that correct?
Yep.
Yes. And also, like, I mean, if I don't have any research background or something, like the experience, so how do I make my profile on that?
Okay, this is a great question. First of all, please don't worry about not having research or academic experience. A researcher or academic, EB1A is a completely different thing than an industry EB1A. The priorities are different, the categories are different. Please don't worry about not having a PhD or publishing a bunch of academic papers. That's almost as different from what we're doing here as an athlete or entertainer, okay? So I wouldn't like worry about that. I just focus on like becoming an industry star in your like little niche of what you do. And if I can put in like, I guess what you might call a personal plug here, I do have an online course that addresses exactly your situation. It's called the VisaBuilder Tech Toolbox. And it tells you where to start. Like, how do you structure your case? How do you build out your profile? What is USCIS looking for? I mean, I'm not here to plug my course, but it happens to be exactly the thing like for your use case. So the other thing that you could do is basically go through the research process that I recommended with attorneys and tell them that you are profile building. Do they work with people who are starting to build their profile, even though you're not going to be filing it like in 6 weeks? I think that's a great question and a really great place to start with your EB1A.
Cool. Thanks, Mary.
Pawan, go for it. Pawan Mishra.
Okay. Yeah. So my question is that does the location of attorney matter? Should I be choosing an attorney which is closer to my location? Because I got the feeling that based on my location, my processing center will be determined, and attorneys should have experience on working with that processing center.
Okay, I think the question was, does it matter where your attorney is located? And does it matter? I'm not sure I quite understood the question about the service center.
So yeah, his assumption is that based on the attorney's location is going to determine which center his EB1 application is going to be filed. Is that true? And if so, how do we validate if that attorney has had experience working with that particular service center? Because
Okay.
Nebraska and Texas seem to differ in the way they adjudicate cases.
Okay, yes, that's a very good question. Your service center jurisdiction, like which service center your case goes to, is determined by the location of the employer listed on the I-140. So if you're self-petitioning, it's your address. If your employer is petitioning, it is the address of your employer. So the location of the attorney is irrelevant in terms of which service center your case goes to. Also, immigration law is a national practice, and so it really makes no difference where your attorney is located. I would interview attorneys nationwide. If you prefer to work with people in person, then start locally and then work outwards from there. But honestly, I think that you'll have the best outcome if your search for an attorney is nationwide.
Awesome. Thank you, Mary. Rupa, go for it.
Hey, Aditi and Mary. So thank you for this wonderful session today. So my question is, so Mary, do you have any recommendation around the list of law firms, right, who specializes for software professionals only, so that it becomes easier for us to like really choose among that list?
So as I understand the question, it was, do I have like specific recommendations for firms that specialize
Yes.
in tech?
You got it. Yes.
I'm not really comfortable like basically naming names. One of the reasons for that is that a firm that I know to be really, really good can have challenges that will give some people a not optimal experience with that firm. I know firms with great reputations that just get sometimes overwhelmed with volume, or that sometimes get understaffed. And so, consistent excellence is really hard to achieve. So, I mean, that's the reason that I don't give specific recommendations.
Okay, thank you, Mary.
All right, Saurabh Ahuja, go for it.
Thank you, Aditi and Mary, for the session. So my question is, generally for EB1A, we need 3 criterias, and at many places you will see candidates say we work on 5 criteria, 6 criteria, and like judging membership and all those things take some time. So what's the downside if someone wants to apply for EB1A and just go with 3 criteria, and in case like either he'll get RFE or NOID, whatever, and then applies again? Like, is there a record that, okay, this guy, so
Okay, that's a great question. The question is, if you want to apply with the minimum 3 categories, as opposed to the recommended 5 or 6 categories, and you're willing to risk a denial and a refiling to file it quickly, is there a downside to that? Is that correct?
yeah,
And
that's
also
correct.
another persistent issue that we have, like a mental block or a legitimate concern, let's say, is somebody keeping record of how many times? Like, are we playing roulette with EB1? Like, is somebody keeping a tab on that?
Okay, so that's a great question, and the answer is there is no downside. Legally, from the perspective of USCIS, there is a record of the denial, and you do have to disclose it on later I-140s that you file, but it's not held against you. Basically, your position with each new I-140 that you file is a prior petition was filed with insufficient evidence, and now the evidence is sufficient. There's honestly, the hardest thing about doing that is just basically the psychological devastation of getting a denial.
Yeah.
But if you're prepared for that mentally and you're willing to play that game, I think it's a great strategy. It's kind of expensive, the premier processing fees really add up. But if you're willing to play it, it's actually a great way to go.
Yeah. I'm not going to disclose the name of this EB1 recipient, but this is something that I should not be telling a lawyer even, but he was like, you know what, my lawyer was taking $20,000. I saw that with filing fees, etc., with premium processing, my entire cost would have been $3,000. So like I could have filed 3 times and gotten feedback from USCIS directly than going with a lawyer. So I just went with that. I'm like, interesting.
If you can handle it mentally, it's a great strategy.
Yeah. So the only thing is that, like, do we have? We almost take it. I cannot speak for everybody, but we almost take it as like failing a grade, so that when you reapply and you're like, oh, the teachers are already kind of like, they know that this is a troublemaker, that like they failed before. So are they going to be extra cautious with us?
No.
Okay.
I mean, they will know that you have a denial, but unless they have a specific reason to suspect some kind of fraud, which is actually pretty rare, they're not going to go look at your old case. They don't care.
Okay. Sounds good. Mukul. Also, folks, we have a hard stop at 1:10. I see hands raised, so we'll take as many questions till that time. But other than that, you're welcome to. I don't know how you can reach out to Mary, and she might answer it at her own discretion. Mukul.
Mary, you mentioned that the NIW is super backed up right now. There's a lot of RFEs. Is there a public way to find out this information? Yeah, that's my question. Regarding EB1A, I guess.
Yes, there is, and I don't have the citation to the link at my fingertips right now, but USCIS does publish periodic statistics about their adjudication records. Like their adjudications and various classifications, how many petitions they received, how many were approved, how many were denied. That information is out there. I don't have a link to it. It's, you go to the USCIS website, there's a section for like statistics or library. And if you dig around in there, you will find some cool, really interesting things.
Okay, thanks.
Ankit Chandra.
Hi, Mary and Aditi. I have a question. I actually self-petitioned for my EB2 and IW. I took some risks, and so I created a whole profile myself. I had a bunch of academic papers and top, high-impact journals. I reviewed more than 10 papers in peer-reviewed journals, and so I thought I would make a cut. But then I received an RFE saying that I'm not well positioned for the proposed endeavor as well. So. My question is that, can I find some attorney or lawyer who can help me with the RFE at the moment?
Yes. Yes,
Um,
absolutely. And that's actually really common to take it as far as you can take it on your own. And then when you hit a barricade like that, where you're looking at the RFE going, I have no idea what they want. That's a great time to find a lawyer.
Would you have some suggestions for that?
I mean, not for specific lawyers. Any attorney that we've talked about here will be, I mean, you don't have to like start with a case beginning. Any attorney who we've been discussing in this seminar will take a case like basically at that stage.
Okay, thanks.
Bhavna Jain.
Hi. So I have a question. I'm pretty early on. I haven't started filing for EB1A, but my question is, there are a lot of software engineers, especially in the Bay Area. I'm from the Bay Area. And based on Mary and your work with the EB1As for tech industry, can you provide some examples of like what counts as extraordinary ability?
Yes. As a matter of fact, in VisaBuilder, we have a whole framework for starting to build your EB1A profile. I always start with original contributions. That is the money shot. I would focus on being big in your field and doing really cool, splashy things. And if you're not doing them yet, like aim in that direction, right? And everything else in terms of building a successful EB1A flows from that. Do a cool thing in the world, be able to explain it in really simple, like coloring book kind of way, even if your specialty is really technical. And so start there. Basically look big on LinkedIn, look big on socials. And then build your other categories out from original contributions. Build critical role, build high salary, build judging and publications, and then build your acclaim categories, get some media coverage, apply for some awards. And anyway, that's basically the order that I would recommend that you do that in.
Okay, thank you.
Arun Balakrishnan.
Hi, Aditya and Mary. Thanks for this session. So I'm building my profile for EB1A. I have a PhD and I have a significant research background. So my question is, when I reach out to an attorney to file for EB1, I'm considering a couple of different attorneys at this point. So my question is, how should I be prepared to position or to explain my case to the attorneys? If one attorney say, oh, I have a good chance of getting it approved, and the other attorney says, oh, no, you need to still build your profile a little further to have a sure shot, how should I go about it? If someone says I have a good chance, the other one says I still need to build my profile, I'm at a limbo right now, should I take the chance or not? So how would you recommend dealing with this dilemma?
IDT,
Yeah.
so I'm having a little reverb on your mic. I'm sorry.
Right. I'll paraphrase. So during, Arun is going through the motions of going to different lawyer consultations. On average, we do consult 2 to 3 lawyers. So Arun's question is, what if there's inconsistency in lawyers' evaluations of my case? So on one side, one lawyer says you're ready to go, and on the other lawyer says, well, there's something missing in your profile. You need to build it up. You're 60 to 70% there. We're not like 100% there. So Arun's question is, how do you resolve this dilemma? Which direction do you go?
That's a really good question, and it's a really hard question to answer. I think that what I would do is I would actually consult a third attorney, because it's so hard to know, right? Which one?
I'm gonna go ahead and mute folks. I don't know who else is not muted. Folks, can you mute yourself? That'd be great. Thank you. Yeah, go for it, Mary.
Every attorney, even when they disagree, is going to have like their own approach, and they both might be successful. So I would do like a little bit more research on each of the attorneys, just on their general reputation, on what kinds of cases they do. I would ask them their success rates, and I would definitely do a third consult. It's a really hard question, and it's a really hard question.
Yeah, actually, a follow-up on that is if
We don't have time right now for
okay, that's fine. Thank you.
We
Thank you.
have to move on to other folks. You're
Sure.
welcome to take up the conversation with Mary and of course with Mary's discussion.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Pavan, I know you had mic issues with your back, so ask the question that you wanted to ask. I think he has mic issues again. Pavan's question is, when I got, okay, could you please ask the question for me? What is the best way to get the profile reviewed thoroughly and assess if it meets the requirements, and most importantly, help create a 1 to 2 year roadmap to fill the gaps? So I think what his question is, how do you make the most out of an attorney consultation?
So as I'm understanding this is a question about hiring an attorney to work with you to build your profile over a period of time, like say 1 to 2 years. Is that accurate?
So he's also mentioning that he has 2 approved patents in smartphone domain, which is being used. Spoke to 2 lawyers. One said, I have a chance. Other one, I don't. Both spent less than 20 minutes reviewing his profile.
Okay, those are not your lawyers.
Truly.
Come on. It's like they fail the curiosity test, honestly. I'd keep looking.
Yeah, I mean, you see so many red flags, because his follow-up comment is, they're asking me to pay the fee to proceed further. So today's Mary's list of things that you need to see, take money and run firm, seems to be a fit to what you were saying over here. So I would follow Mary's advice on that.
At the same time, if the attorney has a good reputation and they're trying to move from the free consult to the paid consult, if you think that you like them, it might be worth doing that. It might be worth paying $500 just to find out.
Right, right. Swapnil Patil.
Thanks, Aditya and Mary, for this session. My question is, does it make any difference if my employer's lawyer file my EB1A versus I go and choose a different lawyer and file EB1A?
So your question is, does it matter whether your employer files it or whether you seek a lawyer to file it?
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot depends on like how enthusiastic your employer is about filing your EB1A, and how much your employer will let you build your own profile. People consistently have a really hard time working with their employer's attorneys because employers' attorneys, especially in large companies, are not EB1A specialists, not by any means. And so sometimes you're better off either consulting an attorney to build your profile, even if you ultimately go with your employer's lawyer. But most of them are super corporate. They have a lot of bureaucracy. It's hard to get things done. It's almost another whole hour of discussion of how to work with your employer's attorney.
Right.
It's not easy. And I would do what's best for you, like in terms of at least consulting another attorney.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
I think we have to draw a hard stop with Anuj's question. So Sandhya, Bhavika, Khushbu, Saroj, and Anubhav, we do have to end it at 1:10. Anuj, go for it.
Hey, Aditi, and hey, Mary, thank you for organizing this session. So I'm pretty much new to EB1A. I'll be really quick. So I have been working as a data engineer for over 4 years. Just wanted to know that, as you told, that be active on social media over LinkedIn, helping others, and going to hackathons and other events. What else can you suggest that I can do to improve my profile? So I'm very new to EB1A.
Okay, I would suggest doing a lot of research. EB1A on socials right now is really having a moment. There are a lot of people giving out a lot of information about how to do your EB1A. Most of it's actually quite good. And, you know, there's lawyers and successful applicants like sharing their strategies. I would undertake like a pretty massive like self-education project using the materials that are already out there about like where to start, including VisaBuilder. So
Sure, thank you. Appreciate
Awesome.
this.
I have included the link of VisaBuilder. That is how I got to know about Mary. Somebody in the Slack community shared it. If you're not a part of the Slack community, I'm going to plug it over here. This is a group of more than 5,600 very enthusiastic people building their EB1 profiles. So if you want to take a stab at that, you can. There are free resources that I have. One of them I'll share with you. Just like Mary, I also, whenever somebody says that they have gotten their EB1, I will get on a call with them and I'll ask them, how did you get it? And I compiled a list of success stories, 30 of them, if you want to grab that. That could be a good place to start. And of course, Mary's VisaBuilder, because I invested $500 or whatever dollars I had to pay after 2 years after I got my EB1, because I wanted to make sure that the information I am disseminating through my channels is top notch, and Mary provides just that. So it's going to be the best amount of money that you're going to spend, and nothing tops anything in EB1 than being proactive and educating yourself. We spend tens of thousands of dollars on master's degrees. You can spend $5,000 for educating yourself in EB1. It's going to save you a lot of tears. That's what I can tell you. Mary, final words of advice for folks as they leave this call.
I am super excited for everyone in this webinar to get your EB1A. Keep striving, keep going for it, take the initiative, educate yourself, and be proactive. That is how you succeed. And I'm cheering for everyone to keep going and to succeed in getting that approval notice.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mary. Mary is in Washington, D.C. at the hub where it's all going down with the new administration. So you know for a fact that you got the best information today. Please leave a kind testimonial for Mary. You're going to get an email from Topmate, and I'll be sure to pass it over to Mary. Thanks so much, folks. Have a great day. Take care.
Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Take care, Mary. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Aditi.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Aditi.
Hi, Mary. I have a question about the AILA membership. How important is it for a new independent practice lawyer? Hi, Mary. I have a question about the AILA membership. How important is it for a new independent practice lawyer?